So, when this pandemic thing is all over, you want to take a trip to Spain. Well, most people will be heading off to the Mediterranean, or Barcelona, or Madrid. I have for you a different opportunity. Perhaps you'd like to check out real Spain, La Sierra Suroeste in the region of Extremadura. A fantastic place to get to know real Spain. Extremadura is one of the 17 autonomous regions of Spain. It's in southwestern Spain, near the Portuguese border. We have 10 municipalities within the Sierra Suroeste. And this is a small map that shows you some of the different towns that we have. And we'd like you to ride along for a zipping around this area with our little friend, Larry Lightning. Larry starts his journey in Badajoz, zips down the road to Barcarota, and then turns and goes over to our first stop in the Sierra Suroeste, Savaleon. Savaleon is a beautiful town of about 2,000 people, located in a valley surrounded by beautiful mountains. In the springtime, the mountains are lime green, and in the fall, they turn a little bit more dry and look a bit like the southwestern United States. But whether you come in the spring, the summer, or even in the winter, it is a beautiful place to visit, as you can see. Savaleon has a long and rich history. Even before the Roman times, people lived here, and there are burial sites nearby that you can visit. There have also been a mix of cultures that have come and gone from this area. The Visigoths lived here, and the Visigoths built a church here in the 7th century. In the 8th century, the Muslims invaded Spain and took this region over. They built a castle here, and they were the rulers of this area for the next 450 years. Later, it was the site of battles between Portuguese and Spanish troops, and even later between the French and the British. But now it is a beautiful, peaceful city, as you can see by its gorgeous town hall. It is a lovely town to walk through the streets, to sit down and have a cup of coffee, and to just listen to the sounds of history that surround you. You can almost feel like you go back in time as you come to Savaleon. As you look at this map, you can see that just south of town, there is a place called Monte Porrino, which was the site of an early Celtic village many centuries ago, and now it is a community farm. And so people from the community keep their animals out here, but there are also great hiking and biking trails. There are picnic grounds. There are places where you can just stop and enjoy the scenery, enjoy the animals that are everywhere, the pigs, the donkeys, the horses. It is a great place to take family. Not only that, you might meet one of the locals. There's also an old hermitage in this area, as well as many beautiful things to see nearby. The numbers 3 and 4 are between Savaleon and Salvatierra de los Barros. Out here, right along the main road, you can stop and take in some of the most scenic views in all of the Sierra Suroeste. As you leave Savaleon and head towards Salvatierra de los Barros, you begin to enter a new area where there's lots of clay, and this particular town is very well known for its pottery. It is also well known for a beautiful castle that sits on the hill above the town. The castle was built way back in the 1400s on top of an earlier structure that had been there already, and it is still occupied today by the family that originally built it. This is the castle right here that you can see from some different angles, and it just dominates the landscape around the town of Salvatierra de los Barros. You can buy lots of pottery here, and it's well known all around the region. There are many pottery shops here, so you might want to be ready to take some back with you when you come to visit Salvatierra de los Barros. Barros means mud or clay, and that's the whole point. Once you leave here, there's also a lot of beautiful things around the town of Salvatierra. As we are on our way toward the Valle De Santa Ana, On the way there, just along the highway, you can stop, you can go to some of the different streams that are around. There are hiking trails all throughout this region, and some of the trails lead down streams and to beautiful cascades and waterfalls. You can park your car along the road and enter behind any of the gates as long as you make sure to close the gates behind you. Some of the trails are very steep and you do need to use caution because especially after the rain they can become quite slippery, and as you can see the waterfalls and the canyons can be quite steep, but once you are there it is so beautiful. There's just a sense of peace, a sense of getting back to nature. As we rejoin Highway 152, we go down the valley to Valle De Santa Ana, a small town of about 1,200 people nestled in the beautiful hills between Valle De Matamoros and Gareth De Los Caballeros. The town has several pretty fountains, a beautiful large park, as well as a wonderful swimming pool for those hot summer days. Although the history of Santa Ana is not real well known, there are a couple of old churches and some other buildings of interest in this town. It is a great place to take a walk and to enjoy the scenery and have a nice cup of coffee before moving on to Valle De Matamoros. This town, which has been in existence for many centuries, was originally an area where Celtic peoples did mining even in the times before Christ. Supposedly, it was named after the killing of the Moors, or Moros, that was done by Alfonso in the 13th century, but no one really knows for sure. Thankfully, these days, no one is being killed in Valle de Matamoros. As a matter of fact, it is a wonderful place to live and a wonderful place to visit. It's especially good if you enjoy walking and getting your exercise because, as you can see, it is built on the hillsides. The streets are very narrow, and it is not easy to drive around in, but it is a wonderful place to walk, a wonderful place to see some of the art on the walls, to see the old church piercing into the deep blue sky, and at night the skies are so clear that you can see the stars, and it is a great place from which to do astronomical observations. As Larry leads us down from Valle de Matamoros, we will bypass Gareth De Los Caballeros for now and zip on over to Fainos. Fainos is a town that was most likely built during the times of the Knights Templar. There is a large tower there left over from a 15th century castle that was likely built on top of an earlier fortification. Now the town has a beautiful main plaza, and there are views of La Dehesa. La Dehesa is the parkland covered with trees under which many of the Iberian pigs wander, and that makes for some wonderful Iberian ham. If you haven't tried the Iberian ham before, make sure that you try it. All of the towns in the Sierra Suroeste have great places to buy the ham, and you will enjoy it, and you will probably want to take some with you to enjoy for future meals. Fainos is a beautiful town, and we're going to take the back road from there on over to another town called Valencia de Monbuey. Although the back road is not paved, it is a gravel road that's in really good shape, and it takes you through some of the most beautiful scenery on the way to Valencia de Monbuey. On the way, there are numerous places where you can stop and hike on roads and trails through the forest, seeing interesting rock formations, and eventually coming to a lake that is just before you arrive in Valencia de Monbuey. Valencia de Monbuey is a small town of about 1,000 people. It also has a very long history. That history includes being invaded several times by the Portuguese, since the town is right along the Portuguese border. It has an old church that was originally built in the 1300s and then remodeled in the 1500s, and you can still see the plaques on the outside of the church that attest to that remodeling that occurred back then. Now there are pleasant places to stay. There's a nice little plaza with lots of play areas for children, great little places to eat and to take a drink. There's also some religious sanctuaries nearby that offer areas to have picnics. And this area also is a connection point to Portugal, and one place where you could go from there on a trip over the border to see some of the other amazing things that are in Alentejo, our neighbors to the west. After we leave Valencia de Monbui, we are going to be traveling back toward Oliva de la Frontera. It is a town of a little more than 5,000 people. This area has been occupied by people since Celtic times. The Romans built the town of Nertobrica here, named after Julius Caesar. Nowadays, you can still find some remains of things from Roman and Visigothic times, but mostly it's been rebuilt after the years of battles between the Portuguese and the Spaniards. It is a beautiful place to stop and to get a donut, have a coffee, walk the beautiful tree-lined streets. They have a beautiful palm-lined downtown promenade. And you will enjoy spending a little time in Oliva de la Frontera. After you leave Oliva de la Frontera, we will be heading out toward Gareth De Los Caballeros, which is the largest city in the Sierra Suroeste. On the way, you also pass through some pretty territory where you can get out and take a walk and get to know some of this beautiful land. The city of Gareth De Los Caballeros is a town of about 10 or 11,000 people. It has been here since Roman times and has the remains of much Roman history, as well as history from the Knights Templar. The Knights Templar were responsible for building the beautiful castle and the walls around it. And there's also a great religious history here with many hermitages, many special sanctuaries for different virgins and different saints. The streets are absolutely beautiful, built upon the hillsides. It's a great place to walk, a great place to take pictures. Truly, Gareth de los Caballeros is one of the prettiest small cities in all of Spain. It was the home to Vasco Núñez de Balboa, the European that discovered the Pacific Ocean, as well as Hernando de Soto, who helped discover Florida and explore the southeastern United States. There are monuments in the town, beautiful churches in the city to see, both inside and out, and it also has a festival in honor of the Knights Templar in the summer, as well as Holy Week celebrations. The city also has some small towns around it that belong to it. Between Jerez and Brovales, you see this 2nd century Roman bridge, and as you get to Brovales, you will see the lake of the same name. And even though Brovales is a very small town, there are a couple of nice places for visitors to stay. Another nearby town is Valwengo, that near there is a castle that is still occupied by its owners, as well as a dolmen, or an ancient burial site from 5,000 years ago that you would definitely want to visit. Near Valwengo, we also have another beautiful lake and a nice place to spend a weekend fishing or having a picnic. From there, we go across to La Bafana, another small village that belongs to Jerez, right on the Rio Ardila. 2 Roman bridges remain intact and can still be driven over, and certainly can be looked at and walked around. And there are some beautiful views of Jerez de los Caballeros from La Bafana. From there, we move on to Fregenal de la Sierra, a city of about 5,000 people that also has a long and interesting history. Although people have lived in Fregenal area since before Roman times, the city came to prominence during the times of the Knights Templar, when they built an amazing castle system here. And the town itself is also now surrounded by great lands for the Iberian pigs, and there are several industries here that make ham and export it around the country and around the world. The plaza downtown is beautiful. It is a place where people gather. There are restaurants all around it. Children play in it. It is just a fantastic place to come and spend the whole afternoon just hanging out. For a relatively small town, Fregenal also has a lot of famous people like Benito Arias Montano, Cipriano de Valera, who helped write the Reina Valera Bible, and also Eugenio Hermoso, a very famous artist. This town is definitely worth your time to spend here. There's also good places to stay here if you wish to do that. All around, there's another place called Nertobrica, which was an ancient Roman town not far from modern-day Fregenal. And if you get in contact with the people at the city hall, they can help arrange a visit to the site. It's still being dug. It's an active archaeological dig, and so the only tours are guided tours to that area. After we leave Fregenal, we don't have to go far, only about 4 more kilometers, and we will move on to Higuera La Real. Although the history of Higuera La Real, the town, is not real well known, we do know that it was probably built prior to the arrival of the Knights Templar, because they mentioned it when they were reconquering the land from the Muslims. There were people here even before that, and this statue of the Mamaracha is a strange reminder of that fact. This statue, built probably in the 1st or 2nd century, is a statue of a griffin, either suckling a human child or protecting the human child. This town has a beautiful situation on top of a hill, and from here you have great views of the valley around. Also, there is a pre-Roman town called Capote, which is only 7 kilometers from the modern town. It was built in the 5th century before Christ and was occupied until the 1st century of our era. The town itself has many beautiful churches and other sanctuaries that are interesting to see, as well as some great places to eat. It has a tapas festival every year that you might want to enjoy. It has a beautiful park, and this is really a town that's worth stopping before you either move on to Andalusia or head back toward Jerez de los Caballeros. If you do head back to Jerez de los Caballeros, I would encourage you to take the back road from Higuera, and you will be passing through some beautiful territory. I hope that your ideas to come to Spain are taking flight, and that you will come and you will visit the Sierra Suroeste in Spain. And even if you can't visit, I would ask you to please share this video with other people who might be able to visit. And do pray for the Sierra Suroeste of Extremadura. We need your prayers. We need your visits. Come and see us.